In the land of Orenvale, where rivers ran like threads of gold and doves nested among the olive trees, there lived a farmer named Alion. His fields were blessed with plenty, but his greatest treasures were his daughters, Murin, gentle and steadfast, and Naomi, bright and curious as morning light. Naomi loved the songs her father sang at dusk, hymns of gratitude, simple and pure. Yet inside her grew a yearning she could not quiet. She often gazed beyond the valley's edge, where mountains shimmered like mirrors and rumors spoke of cities made of glass and silver. One evening, as the sun burned low and the fields glowed red, Naomi approached her father. "Father," she said softly, "give me my share of what is mine. I wish to see the world beyond Orenvale, to learn its secrets, and to find my own light." Alion looked upon her with sorrow and love. "My child, the world's light often blinds the heart. True light shines from within, kindled by faith, not gold." But Naomi's heart was set. With tears in his eyes, Alion gave her the silver coins she was owed, wrapped in a velvet pouch. Around her shoulders, he placed a cloak woven from blessed thread, protection for her soul's journey. At dawn she left. The valley glowed like fire beneath the rising sun. Naomi's heart beat fast as she crossed the meadow, her cloak fluttering like the wings of a dove set free. For many days she traveled, marveling at forests of singing leaves and lakes so clear they mirrored the stars. Her silver bought her fine things, silk gowns, music, and friends whose smiles were as bright as mirrors. But each night, when the moon rose, she felt an emptiness. Her prayers grew faint. The memory of home, her father's voice, her sister's laughter, echoed only as a whisper. One night, in her dream, she saw her father standing by the golden field. "Naomi," his voice said gently, "come home before the night grows too deep." But when she awoke, pride silenced her longing. "Not yet," she thought. "I must prove I can shine on my own." And so began the wandering of the prodigal daughter. Naomi's journey led her to the fabled kingdom of Lunarith, a city that sparkled like glass under moonlight. Its towers shimmered with silver veins, and lanterns floated like captured stars above marble streets. The air smelled of jasmine and promise. At the gates, she met a man clothed in white silk. "Welcome, traveler," he said with a smile that dazzled. "Here, dreams are made real. Your beauty and youth will open every door." And it was true, for a time. Naomi found herself swept into banquets where music never ceased and laughter rang like crystal bells. She was adorned in gowns stitched with moon thread. People praised her grace and spoke her name like a melody. She tasted every luxury, and the city's silver glow became her crown. Yet, as days turned into weeks, the light began to hurt her eyes. Beneath the laughter, she heard whispers, hollow and cruel. The same friends who praised her now mocked others behind their backs. Their joy was like smoke, bright, then gone. One evening, as she walked through the market, Naomi saw a beggar covered in dust, singing an old hymn she recognized, one her father used to hum at sunset. Something in her heart trembled. She reached for a coin from her pouch, but found it nearly empty. The man in white silk appeared again. "You've spent freely," he said with a thin smile. "But light like ours always asks a price." "What price?" Naomi whispered. He pointed to the sky. The moon above was dulling, its light fading like a dying ember. "The more you take, the less your soul will shine." Fear gripped her heart. She looked down at her hands. The silver glow that once pulsed faintly beneath her skin was gone. Only pale, cold fingers remained. That night she tried to leave Lunarith, but every road circled back to the city. The lanterns mocked her, flickering with laughter. "You wanted light," they seemed to say. "Now dwell in it forever." Naomi fell to her knees and wept. Her tears shimmered faintly, forming small ripples that reflected her father's face, distant and sorrowful. She whispered, "Father, I am lost." And for the first time, the heavens seemed to listen. The moon over Lunarith withered to a pale scar. Its towers no longer gleamed but shivered like broken mirrors. When Naomi looked upon her reflection in the marble pools, she saw not the radiant girl who had arrived, but a weary wanderer, her eyes dimmed by regret. She gathered what little remained, her torn cloak of blessing, her empty pouch, and her trembling faith. Then, under the cover of a dying night, she fled the city. The road that led out of Lunarith was lined with wilted lilies and statues whose faces had melted from the touch of false light. Beyond them stretched a valley veiled in mist, the Valley of Shadows, a place few dared to cross. Legends said that it was where the proud were stripped of illusions, where truth bared every soul naked before heaven. Naomi entered with hesitant steps. The air was thick and cold, no birds sang, and the ground beneath her feet seemed to sigh. As she walked, ghostly whispers rose from the mist. Daughter of pride, seeker of false crowns, why did you trade grace for glitter? The words pierced her like thorns. She tried to silence them, but the valley echoed every hidden thought. With every step, memories surfaced, her father's tears, her sister's gentle smile, the nights she turned away from prayer. At last, her strength failed. She sank to her knees in the gray dust and cried, I have lost everything, even myself. Her voice trembled through the valley, and from the fog came a soft, glowing figure. A traveler in a plain cloak, carrying a lantern that shone not with silver but with warm, golden fire. The stranger's face was veiled, yet his presence brought peace that melted the cold. Who are you? Naomi whispered. A servant of the light, he said gently. One who walks with those who have forgotten the way. Naomi bowed her head. Then you know I am lost beyond saving. The traveler knelt beside her. No soul is lost that still longs for home. From his lantern drifted a single spark, floating toward Naomi. When it touched her cloak, the frayed threads shimmered faintly, as though remembering the blessing woven by her father's hands. Tears welled in Naomi's eyes. I don't deserve his love. The traveler smiled. Love is never deserved, it is given. The path home is still open, though narrow. Follow the light, and it will lead you through the shadows. With trembling faith, Naomi rose. The mist parted slightly, revealing a faint trail glowing with the same golden hue as the traveler's lantern. She followed, her bare feet pressing into the soft earth. As they walked, she noticed strange shapes moving in the distance, echoes of people she had known, shadows of the past. Some called to her, promising the comfort of old pleasures. Others mocked, reminding her of her mistakes. Naomi faltered. They know me. They know my shame. Then let them see you walk on, said the traveler. The only answer to darkness is light. They pressed onward until dawn broke faintly through the clouds. The first true sunlight Naomi had seen in months poured into the valley, breaking the mist into golden fragments. The traveler's form grew brighter until she could barely look upon him. When she turned, he was gone, only the lantern remained, still burning softly beside her. Naomi fell to her knees again, this time not in despair, but in awe. Thank you, she whispered to the unseen heavens. Show me the way home. The wind carried a single word back through the sunlight, begin. The dawn in the Valley of Shadows was unlike any Naomi had ever seen. The mist glowed faintly gold, as though the sunlight itself hesitated before touching the ground. Beside her lay the lantern the traveler had left, small, warm, and alive with holy fire. Naomi lifted it gently. Its glow responded to her heartbeat, pulsing softly with each breath. Guide me, she whispered, and the flame flared brighter, casting a thin golden path across the valley floor. She followed it. The path wound through silent ridges and twisted roots until she reached a narrow pass. The rocks glimmered faintly, as if remembering the radiance they had once known. On the other side lay a meadow of pale grass that shimmered silver under the light, a quiet oasis hidden between the mountains. At its center stood a man in a simple wool robe, leaning on a staff carved from olive wood. His hair was white as moonlight, and around his shoulders hung a mantle woven with faint stars. Sheep grazed peacefully around him, yet their wool glowed with light, as if each creature carried a piece of dawn within. Naomi approached timidly. Are you the traveler? She asked. The man smiled, though his eyes seemed to hold eternity. No, child, I am the shepherd of light. You have followed one of my servants. Naomi bowed her head. He told me the path home was still open. The shepherd nodded. It is. But every path must pass through repentance, and repentance must pass through truth. He raised his staff, and the meadow shimmered. The grass parted like water, revealing a pool of crystal so clear it mirrored the heavens. Look, he said. Naomi gazed into the pool, and saw herself as she truly was. Not the splendid woman of Lunarith, but a weary soul covered in the dust of pride and fear. Her hands trembled. "I cannot bear this." "Truth often wounds before it heals," the shepherd said gently. "But the wound is mercy's doorway." He dipped his staff into the water. Ripples of golden light spread outward, cleansing the reflection until Naomi's image glowed softly, not perfect, but forgiven. "Do you see?" he said. "Your father's love has never left you. It waits, patient as the dawn. All he asks is your heart returned." Naomi fell to her knees. "I want to go home. I want to be made whole again." The shepherd smiled. "Then rise, daughter of grace. Take up your lantern and follow where the true light leads." He turned toward the sheep, motioning to one that stood apart from the rest, a small lamb with dim fur. "This one has wandered long, like you. Bring it back to the fold, and you will learn what it means to restore what was lost." Naomi lifted the lamb in her arms. It was trembling, weak, but warm. She carried it back to the others, every step guided by the shepherd's staff of light. When she placed the lamb down, its wool flared bright, joining the radiance of the flock. The meadow filled with music, not of harps or voices, but of living light singing praise. The shepherd's eyes shone. Every lost soul that returns brings a new note to heaven's song. He handed Naomi a small loaf of bread and a flask of water. "You must leave the valley now. Beyond the ridge lies the wilderness, the final trial before home. Take strength for the road." Naomi accepted them with trembling hands. "Will I see you again?" The shepherd smiled, his form growing brighter. "In every act of mercy, in every spark of hope, I am there." The golden light grew until Naomi had to close her eyes. When she opened them, the meadow was empty, only the lantern in her hand glowed stronger than before. She looked toward the mountains ahead. For the first time since leaving Orenvale, her steps felt light. Naomi journeyed east, carrying the shepherd's lantern close to her chest. The glow warmed her heart, though the wind grew colder with each passing mile. By noon, the green of the valley had vanished. Before her stretched a vast, endless desert, a wasteland of thorns and burning sand. The horizon wavered under the weight of heat and silence. Her feet sank into the dry dust, and the air shimmered like molten glass. "This must be the wilderness he spoke of," Naomi murmured. At first, she walked with confidence. The lantern's light formed a faint golden trail ahead, flickering like a promise. But as the sun climbed higher, her strength began to fade. Her water ran low, her lips cracked, her cloak, once a shield of blessing, grew heavy with sweat and dust. By the second day, the light of the lantern dimmed. Naomi fell to her knees beside a dying thornbush. "Father, forgive me," she whispered, "but I cannot go on." A shadow passed across the sand. When Naomi looked up, she saw a figure standing before her, a woman draped in flowing robes of crimson and black, her eyes gleaming like polished obsidian. "Poor traveler," the woman said with a smile that glimmered like a blade. "You wander alone, thirsty and tired. Why suffer so? There are easier paths to light." Naomi gripped the lantern. "Who are you?" "I am what you seek," the woman replied. "I am power, comfort, glory. Come with me, and I'll return all you lost, and more." The desert wind grew still. Around them, mirages rose, images of Naomi's old life in Lunarith. Silver gowns, laughter, praise. Her reflection shimmered in the air, radiant, adored, unbroken. Her heart ached. "It looks so real." The woman stepped closer. "It can be real again. Your father's fields are far behind. Why crawl back in shame when you could reign in light?" The temptation burned like the desert sun. Naomi trembled. "But that light, it cost me my soul once." The woman's smile darkened. "Then what is your soul worth if it leaves you to die here?" Naomi shut her eyes. The shepherd said truth wounds before it heals. She reached within her heart for the last spark of faith. With trembling fingers, she lifted the lantern. The golden flame inside flickered weakly, then steadied. It cast a glow upon the woman's face, and the illusion began to crumble. The crimson robes turned to smoke. The black eyes melted into pits of shadow. The mirages around her shattered like glass, scattering into the sand. The woman hissed and vanished into dust. Naomi fell back, panting. The lantern's flame burned bright again, steady as the morning star. She whispered through tears, not by strength, but by light. But the test was not over. Night fell swiftly over the desert, bringing cold winds and silence. The stars above were endless, sharp, clear, and distant. Naomi lay beneath them, clutching the lantern close. Then, faintly, she heard singing. Not the cruel laughter of Lunareth, but a gentle melody carried by the wind, her father's hymn. Greater than, though the night be deep and wide, the light shall walk beside. The lost shall rise, the weary mend. For love endures without an end. Naomi wept softly, but not from despair. Every tear glowed faintly in the lantern's light. She realized that what she carried was not only her father's love, it was God's mercy itself, alive and guiding her. By dawn, the desert began to bloom. The thorns around her softened, sprouting small white flowers that opened toward the sun. She rose to her feet, renewed. Even the desert yields when mercy touches it, she whispered. With the lantern blazing brighter than ever, Naomi followed the golden light toward the horizon, where the land of dawn awaited. When the first light of dawn crowned the dunes, Naomi found herself standing at the edge of a wide ravine. The desert had ended, not in ruin, but in wonder. Before her stretched a winding river, glimmering like molten silver beneath the rising sun. Its waters moved gently, singing a melody that sounded almost like a voice, soft, pure, and ancient. The air smelled of myrrh and rain, though no clouds marked the sky. Naomi stood speechless. The lantern in her hands pulsed in rhythm with the river's current, as if recognizing something sacred. She whispered, "The river of mercy." She stepped closer. The riverbank was lined with lilies that shone with dew. Each petal held a faint golden light, like tears turned to jewels. Naomi knelt by the water's edge and cupped her hands. When she drank, warmth filled her body, not merely quenching her thirst, but mending something broken deep within. Visions bloomed before her eyes. She saw her father, Alion, tending his fields at dusk, pausing to gaze toward the mountains as if he could feel her spirit across the distance. She saw Murin, her sister, lighting a candle each night by the window, praying softly for her return. Naomi's tears fell into the river. Instead of sinking, they shimmered and dissolved into light, merging with the current. A voice, neither man nor woman, but both, spoke from the flowing waters. Greater than, your tears are not wasted, Naomi of Orenvale. Each drop returns to the source. The Father has heard, and his mercy flows without end. Naomi bowed her head. I left him, I took his gifts and wasted them. I turned away from his truth. Greater than, yet you came seeking, said the voice. And seeking opens the door that pride once closed. The water began to rise, surrounding her gently. It did not drown her, it embraced her. The current lifted her cloak and cleansed its dust. The blessing threads glowed again, brighter than before. Her face reflected in the water was transformed, not perfect, not proud, but peaceful. When she opened her eyes, she saw a figure on the opposite bank, the traveler who had first found her in the Valley of Shadows. He held no lantern this time, his entire being was light. You have crossed the valley and survived the desert, he said. Now you must carry mercy within you, as the river carries its song. Naomi crossed the shallow part of the stream, the water gliding around her ankles like silk. The traveler extended his hand, and when she took it, her lantern glowed with renewed brilliance, brighter than when her father first gave her the blessing cloak. Where must I go now? She asked softly. Home, said the traveler. But not yet. The way back is through remembrance. There are things you must see, lessons to restore, before the gate of forgiveness opens. He pointed to a grove of silver-leafed trees beyond the river. Follow the sound of the doves, for they carry prayers. Beyond them lies the path to the house of returning. Naomi bowed her head. And will I see you again? The traveler smiled, his form dissolving into light. I am already within you, as the river now flows within your soul. She stood alone beside the flowing waters. Around her, the lilies bowed in the wind, and the river shimmered brighter, as if blessing her with each wave. Naomi dipped her hands once more, letting the cool current run through her fingers. Father, she whispered to the rising sun, I am coming home. And as she walked away from the riverbank, the wind carried her words into the distance, and somewhere far beyond the mountains, a farmer paused his plow, feeling his heart stir with sudden hope. When the first light of dawn crowned the dunes, Naomi found herself standing at the edge of a wide ravine. The desert had ended, not in ruin, but in wonder. Before her stretched a winding river, glimmering like molten silver beneath the rising sun. Its waters moved gently, singing a melody that sounded almost like a voice, soft, pure, and ancient. The air smelled of myrrh and rain, though no clouds marked the sky. Naomi stood speechless. The lantern in her hands pulsed in rhythm with the river's current, as if recognizing something sacred. She whispered, "The river of mercy." She stepped closer. The riverbank was lined with lilies that shone with dew. Each petal held a faint golden light, like tears turned to jewels. Naomi knelt by the water's edge and cupped her hands. When she drank, warmth filled her body, not merely quenching her thirst, but mending something broken deep within. Visions bloomed before her eyes. She saw her father, Alion, tending his fields at dusk, pausing to gaze toward the mountains as if he could feel her spirit across the distance. She saw Myrrhen, her sister, lighting a candle each night by the window, praying softly for her return. Naomi's tears fell into the river. Instead of sinking, they shimmered and dissolved into light, merging with the current. A voice, neither man nor woman, but both, spoke from the flowing waters. "Greater than, your tears are not wasted, Naomi of Orenvale. Each drop returns to the source. The Father has heard, and his mercy flows without end." Naomi bowed her head. "I left him, I took his gifts and wasted them. I turned away from his truth. Greater than, yet you came seeking," said the voice. "And seeking opens the door that pride once closed." The water began to rise, surrounding her gently. It did not drown her, it embraced her. The current lifted her cloak and cleansed its dust. The blessing threads glowed again, brighter than before. Her face reflected in the water was transformed, not perfect, not proud, but peaceful. When she opened her eyes, she saw a figure on the opposite bank, the traveler who had first found her in the Valley of Shadows. He held no lantern this time, his entire being was light. "You have crossed the valley and survived the desert," he said. "Now you must carry mercy within you, as the river carries its song." Naomi crossed the shallow part of the stream, the water gliding around her ankles like silk. The traveler extended his hand, and when she took it, her lantern glowed with renewed brilliance, brighter than when her father first gave her the blessing cloak. "Where must I go now?" she asked softly. "Home," said the traveler. "But not yet. The way back is through remembrance. There are things you must see, lessons to restore, before the gate of forgiveness opens." He pointed to a grove of silver-leafed trees beyond the river. "Follow the sound of the doves, for they carry prayers. Beyond them lies the path to the house of returning." Naomi bowed her head. "And will I see you again?" The traveler smiled, his form dissolving into light. "I am already within you, as the river now flows within your soul." She stood alone beside the flowing waters. Around her, the lilies bowed in the wind, and the river shimmered brighter, as if blessing her with each wave. Naomi dipped her hands once more, letting the cool current run through her fingers. "Father," she whispered to the rising sun, "I am coming home." And as she walked away from the riverbank, the wind carried her words into the distance, and somewhere far beyond the mountains, a farmer paused his plow, feeling his heart stir with sudden hope. The path beyond the river of mercy wound gently upward through a grove of silver-leaved trees. Each leaf shimmered like glass and made a faint, chiming sound when the wind passed, as though the forest itself was whispering prayers. Naomi followed the soft music of cooing doves deeper into the grove. The lantern in her hand glowed brighter with each step, casting halos of warm gold upon the bark of ancient trees. The air grew still, holy, expectant. Then the forest opened, revealing a small house made of white stone and polished wood. Its roof was shaped like open hands, and its door shone with light that pulsed softly, as though it breathed. Above the door was carved a single word in the old language. "Return." Naomi hesitated at the threshold. Her heart trembled. "I have no right to cross this door," she whispered. "I am unworthy." But the voice she had heard by the river echoed faintly in her heart. "Greater than, mercy opens where humility knocks." Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. The door opened soundlessly. Inside was no ordinary room. The walls were made of mirrors, not smooth or perfect, but living mirrors that shimmered like water. Each one reflected not her outer form, but moments of her life. She saw herself as a child, laughing in her father's arms. She saw Myrrh plaiting her hair under the olive tree. She saw the day she left, the way her father's hand lingered in the air after she turned away. Tears filled her eyes. Oh, what I threw away. As she walked further, the mirrors changed. She saw Lunarith, the city of false light. Her laughter there, hollow and proud. The beggar she ignored. The temptation she embraced. The fear she hid. Naomi fell to her knees. Lord, I have sinned against heaven and against my father. I am no longer worthy to be called his daughter. The mirrors around her darkened. For a moment, she feared they would shatter. But then the lantern's light flared, and the darkness began to dissolve. In each mirror, the same scene appeared, her father, standing in the golden fields of Orenvale, his face turned toward the horizon. His eyes were filled not with anger, but with yearning and love. A voice, gentle as dawn, filled the chamber. Greater than, Naomi, daughter of Alion, beloved though wayward. You are seen, you are known. The Father's heart does not close, it waits. The return is not earned, it is accepted. Naomi's tears fell upon the floor, and where they touched, lilies bloomed, glowing white in the sacred light. I accept, she whispered. I will return. The mirrors brightened, becoming windows filled with golden radiance. Through them, Naomi saw the path home, winding through the hills, the valleys, and the sea of wheat beyond. As she turned to leave, she noticed something on a table near the door, her father's ring, the one he used to wear as a symbol of blessing. It shimmered softly, untouched by time. Naomi hesitated, then slipped it onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as though waiting for her all along. The lantern's flame rose higher, dancing like a living soul. The door of the house opened once more, revealing the sun setting behind the mountains, painting the sky with gold and rose. Naomi stepped outside. She looked toward the horizon. Home was still far, but her heart was already there. And for the first time since her fall, she smiled, not with pride, but with peace. The night Naomi left the house of returning, the heavens blazed with stars, not the cold kind she had once admired from the city of Lunarith, but warm and alive, pulsing with the same rhythm as her lantern's glow. She walked beneath their gentle radiance, her steps light, her spirit newly mended. The ring on her finger shimmered faintly, each glint a promise. By dawn, she reached the high ridge overlooking the world she had crossed. Behind her lay the silver river, the desert's pale thorns, and the misty valley where she once wept. Before her stretched a path bathed in golden morning light, winding toward the far horizon where her father's fields awaited. Naomi took a deep breath. This is the road home, she whispered. As she began to walk, she heard a soft rustling behind her. Out of the light emerged 3 travelers, each radiant in a quiet, humble way. The first was a young boy carrying a broken flute. I was once a musician in Lunarith, he said shyly. My songs praised shadows instead of truth. May I walk beside you, and learn to play for the light instead. Naomi smiled. The road of dawn welcomes all who seek it. The second was a woman veiled in gray, holding a cracked jar. I once sold illusions, she said softly. Perfumes of pride and mirrors of deceit. But when your lantern shone in the city, my false wares turned to dust. I want to carry truth now, not lies. Naomi reached out her hand. Then walk with me. The third traveler was an old man with a staff, his eyes filled with kindness. I was a keeper of gates, he said, but I shut out the poor and the weary. I now seek the gate that will not close. Naomi nodded. We walked toward it together. As they journeyed, the road brightened, every step leaving behind a faint golden print that shimmered before fading into dust. The boy played his broken flute, and though it missed many notes, the sound carried peace. The woman's cracked jar began to glow faintly, releasing the scent of myrrh and olive oil, not for vanity, but healing. The old man used his staff to steady those who stumbled. By the second evening, they reached a high hill where the land spread like a sea of light below. Naomi stopped, gazing in awe. It's as if the world is being reborn, she whispered. The old man smiled. When one soul returns, the heavens rejoice, and creation sings again. As the sun dipped low, Naomi saw something miraculous in the distance, a faint column of golden smoke rising from the valley beyond. Her heart quickened. "It's my father's home," she said softly, tears glimmering in her eyes. That night, they camped beneath the stars. Naomi sat awake, watching the horizon. The others slept peacefully beside the lantern's glow. She whispered a prayer. "Greater than, thank you for leading me through shadow and fire, through thirst and fear. Let my steps honor your mercy. Let my return bring joy, not sorrow." A gentle wind passed through the night, warm, fragrant, carrying the distant sound of doves. When dawn came, it painted the sky with rose and gold. The boy's flute played a new melody, light and clear. The woman's cracked jar overflowed with shining oil that glowed in the sun. The old man's staff sprouted green leaves, a sign of life restored. Naomi rose, her lantern blazing bright. She turned toward the valley where her father waited and whispered, "The night is ended. The road of dawn has begun." And together, the travelers stepped forward, not as strangers, but as souls reborn by mercy's fire. By the time the road of dawn turned into gentle plains, Naomi's heart trembled between joy and fear. The golden light that guided her began to merge with the earth itself. Soft hills covered in silver-green grass swayed beneath the rising sun. She could smell the sweet scent of wheat carried by the wind. The fields of her father stretched far and wide, endless as grace. They looked almost unreal, shimmering as if heaven had touched the land. Naomi's steps slowed. "It hasn't changed," she whispered. "Not even after all this time." The boy with the flute looked up at her. "You're home," he said simply. Naomi's heart ached. "But what if I am no longer welcome?" The old man touched her shoulder. "The light does not call the worthy," he said. "It calls the willing." As they approached the outer field, Naomi saw workers harvesting grain. Their laughter carried across the wind, steady, peaceful. But when they noticed her silhouette on the road, they stopped, whispering. She could feel their eyes upon her, the once beloved daughter who vanished with her inheritance, who left her father's house in pride and returned in rags. Naomi lowered her head. Her cloak was torn, her sandals worn thin. The ring of mercy glimmered faintly, but she hid her hand beneath the fabric. "I'll go alone from here," she said softly to her companions. "Thank you for walking with me." The boy bowed. "We'll wait on the edge of the field. The dawn is yours to step into." The woman and the old man smiled gently, their forms already fading in the morning glow. Naomi realized they were not mere travelers, but messengers, echoes of the shepherd's light. Tears filled her eyes. She turned toward the hill where her father's house stood, white walls surrounded by olive trees. Smoke rose from the chimney, curling into the pale blue sky. The same as she remembered. Naomi's knees weakened. She wanted to run, yet fear held her still. "Father," she whispered, "will you still call me your daughter?" Then, from far off, a figure appeared on the hill. An old man, wrapped in a cloak of pure white, stood watching the road. Even from afar, Naomi knew the way he held himself, the way his shoulders trembled when he saw her. Her breath caught. "Father!" The man's staff fell from his hand. He began to run. Naomi fell to her knees, sobbing. She tried to speak, but her voice broke. "I'm not worthy to be your daughter," she whispered as he approached. "I have sinned, I have nothing left." Her father reached her, breathless and trembling, and before she could bow her head, he lifted her up and held her tight. "My child," he whispered, his voice choked with tears. "You were lost, and now you are found. You were dead, and now you live." Naomi wept into his arms. The warmth of his embrace washed away every shadow that clung to her. Her ring shone like sunlight on water. When they walked back to the house together, servants hurried out, astonished. Her father called out with joy. "Greater than, bring her the finest robe. Prepare the table, let the music rise and the lamps be lit, for my daughter has come home." Naomi trembled as they placed a soft linen robe around her shoulders, its threads woven in gold. She looked into her father's eyes, the same gentle eyes that had never stopped waiting. "Father," she whispered, "how could you forgive me so freely?" He smiled. "Because love waits longer than pride can wander." As the celebration began, Naomi looked out across the fields glowing in the evening light. She saw her companions far away on the road, the boy playing his flute, the woman pouring oil into the dust, the old man planting his staff in the ground like a banner. Then they vanished, their work done. The music rose, laughter filled the courtyard, and Naomi felt something she had not known for years, peace. Her father placed his hand over hers and said, "Child, remember this. Mercy is not found in the road you take, it is found in the heart that calls you home." And Naomi knew, her journey was not one of punishment, but of grace. Every thorn, every tear, every shadow had led her back to light. That night, the fields of her father's house glowed like dawn itself. Every window blazed with lanterns, every corner filled with song. The long tables stretched beneath olive trees, covered with bread, honey, milk, and wine. Servants and shepherds, neighbors and wanderers, all were invited. At the center of it all sat Naomi, dressed in a robe of white and gold, her hair braided with olive leaves. Her father sat beside her, smiling with the deep peace of one whose prayers had been answered. A choir of young voices sang softly, their melody rising like incense through the night. The stars above seemed to shimmer brighter, as though heaven itself joined in the celebration. Naomi's heart overflowed with wonder. She remembered the cold loneliness of the city, the hunger, the thorns, the river's mercy. Now, surrounded by laughter and warmth, she understood. Her journey had not destroyed her, it had remade her. Her father stood and raised his cup. "Greater than, let all who have wandered hear this," he said, his voice carrying across the fields. "My daughter who was lost has returned. But her return is not only for me, it is for all who doubt that love endures. Tonight we feast, not for what was lost, but for what has been found." The people cheered. Musicians struck their instruments. The boy with the flute appeared among them, his melody clear and joyful. Naomi gasped softly when she saw him, the same boy who had walked beside her on the road of dawn, now smiling among the guests. Beside the musicians stood the veiled woman, now unveiled, her face radiant, her cracked jar overflowing with fragrant oil that burned in golden lamps along the table. And by the gate stood the old man with the staff, now strong and straight, its branches blooming with white flowers. Naomi knew then that they were not just travelers, they were angels of the shepherd, sent to guide her home. Her father leaned close and whispered, "Do you see now, my child? The light you found is not yours alone. It shines for all." Naomi nodded, tears filling her eyes. "Then let me share it." She rose, lifted her small lantern, the one that had guided her through every trial, and held it high. Its glow spread outward, catching every lamp and candle until the whole courtyard blazed with light. Children gasped in delight, the guests shielded their eyes from the brightness. And as the light reached the edge of the fields, the olive trees shimmered with silver fire. Naomi spoke. "Greater than, once I walked in darkness, believing love was something to earn. But now I know, love is a gift, and mercy a river that never runs dry. If ever you lose your way, remember this light, and come home." Silence followed, deep and full, before the people began to sing, not a song of sorrow, but of joy reborn. Later that night, when the feast quieted and the stars stood high, Naomi walked alone to the edge of the field. The lantern's glow shimmered faintly in her hand. The wind whispered through the wheat, carrying voices that sounded like laughter, like blessing. She closed her eyes and smiled. "I am home," she whispered. "And I will never forget the road that led me here." From that day forward, Naomi became known across the valleys as the keeper of light. She opened her father's house to travelers, the broken, and the lost, those who carried shame, those who carried sorrow. Each evening she would light her lantern at the gate, setting it high so all could see it gleam across the plains. Some nights, wanderers would appear, guided by that single flame, and Naomi would meet them at the door, her words always the same. "Greater than, you are not too late. The feast still waits. Come home." And thus, the light of one prodigal heart became a beacon for many, a living song of mercy that never ceased to shine. Moral lesson. True redemption is not found in perfection, but in the courage to return. Even the farthest wanderer can find home when guided by humility, love, and grace. Light waits for all who turn their hearts toward it, And mercy never stops calling our names. For more motivation stories, please like, share and subscribe this channel. God bless.